Beyond E-commerce Borders podcast.
Hello, eShop managers and ambitious online sellers. Welcome back to season 2 of our Beyond E-commerce Borders podcast. Today's episode has a title, Getting Your Sales Expansion Right. And it is packed with insights for anyone looking to succeed in Europe. However, before we get into details, let us introduce ourselves. I'm Rolando, and with me in this podcast today is Lidia. We are your hosts for today's journey through the world of e-commerce, and we're both part of Internel, e-com experts specializing in cross-border logistics across Europe. Lidia, are you with us?
Hi everyone, it's me, Lidia. A pleasure to have you with us today, listening to our insights on how to get your expansion right. With years of experience working with e shops across Europe, we know that to succeed, you need to know the markets you're expanding and to make smart decisions. And we will help you with that. Here is what you will take away from today's episode. Whether you are from North America, Asia, or elsewhere, we will guide you through the complexities of European Union. From understanding consumer behavior and preferences, we will break down what it takes to make a smooth entry. For those already in or from Europe, we will explore how you can maintain your brand experience across the various markets and regionalize your sales approach. So, if your goal is building and growing a serious business on our continent, stay tuned and we guide you on this journey. Rolando, ready for more details?
All right, so let's start with some shocking numbers. You may already know them anyway. Out of 10 e-shops that work with us, or generally I would say start, 7 fail within the first year. It does not matter whether they're startups, multinational, established brands. The challenges they face are actually mostly the same. And that means only 3 succeed. And how can you actually be amongst them? Before answering that, let's see what mistakes the others do, the 7 that fail. And for that, let's go back to the past. Imagine 20 years ago you wanted to open a store, obviously a physical store in a high street. For that, you have a great product or a product offering, but now the question arises, how will you make your customers visit your store? Because there's many others, right? For that, you'll follow a simple thing. You will analyze who are the persons shopping in the area before even deciding to open a store there, right? Do they have the purchase power to buy your products? Is it the right crowd you wish to attract? Is your product attractive to them? And only after answering those questions, you will make sure your shop is greatly illuminated, has great furniture, music, and whatever. And the most important, only after that, you will hire great sales staff that speaks the language of your clients to make them feel welcome and in the buying mood, right? Pretty same as online, no? Well, that's exactly what is not done in the e-com world, and that's what is a mistake. The start is actually pretty much the same. You have a great product or a brand. You now look for a great shop, which is obviously your sales platform, the way you sell it online, which has a great design. It has a great display. Your products are visible, zoomable, whatever. And now you're starting to advertise online to get clients, right? But does that all align with your customers' expectations or yours? Have you really looked who your customers are? For example, where they buy, what languages they speak, what income they have. Do you understand what the European customer really wants? And most important, as we said before in the physical shop, do you speak their language? Or do you believe that coming with an English e-shop for all Europe, or German, or coming with one currency in Europe, dollars or Europe, will make you sell because it may not be the currency of your customers. So treating European customers as the same is the common mistake we have seen for years, and it's the root cause of many online failures. online stores coming to us, asking us to start with one language, one currency for all Europe, hoping to grow fast and expand everywhere. And that is the fast end of the market entry of those online businesses. So the reality is different. Each customer has its unique customer and consumer behavior. There are regional payment preferences, delivery expectations, whatever you can imagine. Um, Let us now have a closer look first on those main differences, the regions, and what consumers can expect from online businesses. Um, I have a slide here which you will see. Those who watch us, they can see the slide obviously on the screen. The others can happily listen and download those slides later at the end of our episode. Europe, as we know, as we heard before, Europe, as we know and we heard before, is not one market, but obviously we have 44 countries here. And let's try and split Europe a bit into we will call it markets, into developed e-commerce markets and emerging ones, and specify these a bit more. So if you cut Europe in 2 or 4 bits, actually, you will have a line going from west to east, and you would have one north and south. And this is pretty much where we have. So we have the so-called developed markets, which are Northern and Western Europe, and the emerging markets being Eastern and Southern Europe, and Southern meaning also including Italy, for example, Spain and Portugal. What's the difference between the regions? Obviously, the developed markets are those where the economy is usually more stable. They have normally a very good country infrastructure overall for logistics, and the purchase power is high. There is money around there. The markets are a bit, I would say, grown. They do only, in brackets, only grow 5 to 10% a year in terms of online sales. And those consumers in those markets, in the developed markets, usually look for comfort. We'll see what that means in a moment. The emerging markets are slightly different. Obviously, the infrastructure of the country is usually a bit challenging. There's a lack of, I would say, roads, railroads, connections. Still, the economy is not so stable, and with it, obviously, coming along, the purchase power of the people is definitely low to medium. So there is a great news. It's a great way up to go. The markets develop further, and that we've seen with the annual online sales growth in those countries, which is high, between 15 and 25%, depending on the country. Consumers in those countries, though, they are actually looking for safety of their products they order, safety in terms of payment, of delivery, and so on. So let's dig into that. Comfort, we said, for Northern and Western Europe, and that means these countries where people have money, they like to go cross border. They usually work with, I would say, old-fashioned credit cards, PayPal, but since they want the comfort, they would like to have a delivery time of 1 or 2 days. That's a must. Overall, if you're a national business, this is what is expected. Normally, they love their national mail services, the post, and it actually does also work well. And they usually have their parcels coming home or to a post office, right? And that's totally different in the West, frankly speaking. Cross border is not really a deal yet. You buy national because obviously the income is not that great yet. You don't want to have experiments of buying in far away countries and bearing freight charges. So there's a low interest in cross border shopping. The payment terms are different. It's usually start with instant banking. You even have a cash on delivery rate, which no one seems to be able to kill. People want to pay with cash. Around 20-30% of the orders go cash in the south and in the west. Funny enough, when the carrier comes, the credit card is pulled out to pay on the terminal, at least in some countries. And there is instant banking, which is actually not even known in the Western economy what that means. These are things that an online trader growing into Europe needs to know. Consumers in emerging markets, they are actually much more in favor of parcel lockers or so-called pickup shops. And I think one of the big differences in the development of these two regions is how they want to be contacted. So if a German or a Swiss person will place an order, she expects an email to come, eventually an SMS when the parcel's on the way. Whereas in some countries in the East, for example, they expect a phone call. So the online business is trying to call to confirm the order. That is very opposite to what Western societies know. And obviously, this is something that is liked and should be done, or at least someone should be engaged who could do that. Further on, when we talk about credit cards, in some countries, when we looked at the payment terms, there are actually not a lot of credit cards out there. There's either debit cards, a bit more different, but much more youngsters have mobile wallets or instant banking. And if you then obviously for young people, if you address young people, your products offer credit card options, you may wonder why there is so many shopping carts that are abandoned, right? Um, so your target is who are you selling to? And here is a true and unfortunately very sad story, for example, of a former partner of ours. It was a Western European textile company who was selling high branded, high expensive or fashionable clothes to targeting to people above 50. And they came to Poland particularly. They wanted to conquer the whole East from here, saying we want to do the same. And we say, guys, in the East, the old folks, they don't have money. That's a fact of history. There are the poorest part of the population are the pensioners, whereas obviously it is exactly the opposite in the West. Swiss, Austrian, German, French pensioners, they have money. They have more money than the teens or the people within 20 and 40 years. They didn't want to listen. They invested 100,000 euros for a 3 months campaign, and they withdrew after 12 months because they had money. They could continue like that. Yeah. So one of the 12 that I said to you before, actually, of the 10 that failed. So surely, to conclude, you would not spend advertising money for your international e-shop for Europe in a market where you know, or where you should know, that consumers are not yet keen to buy cross-border. We encourage you to think about your products, your targets, your resources, and your overall goals, right? Because it's all about tailoring your approach to unique circumstances. What's next, Lydia?
And as a next step, let's have a look at an actionable roadmap. Are you targeting a high purchase power region or emerging markets? For example, what might sell well in Germany might not be a hit in France, even though both countries have large populations. So you need to dig deeper and really understand the cultural nuances and specific consumer behavior in each market that you are targeting. Is there a genuine demand for your product? It's like doing your homework before you go to the party. You want to make sure you're showing up in the right place, dressed appropriately, and ready to mingle with the right people. Your expansion strategy in Europe affects everything: your website's language, currency, payment methods, and even how you manage logistics. Our next slide outlines the steps for your market entry. Step one will be the understanding of your customer needs per region. An example: do you have a product that's already popular in a specific region and you try to expand from there? Or are you focusing on the EU largest e commerce market, Germany, with its 82 million people and a high purchasing power? Or do you tackle the most progressive but smaller markets in Scandinavia with immense buying potential but multiple language needs? By doing the right analysis, you will make the right decision. As a second step, you will need to limit your assortment and service offer first, and the risk of having wrong products in the market or a great choice of payment and delivery offers that nobody wants. Then see what is hot and adapt. And finally, step three, the most important: talk consumer language and currency, like in a real physical brick and mortar store. Sounds too easy to be true. Well, this is where the most e commerce businesses struggle and fail. no local languages spoken, no possibility for consumers for a message, email, or call in their languages. So now Rolando will tell you about the trails into or within Europe, right?
Surely will, Lydia. As we talk about expansion trails within Europe, a quick note about the UK. Due to Brexit, the biggest e-commerce market definitely needs a different approach. And we're going to talk about this in following seasons. Not today. Now we're taking care of the big rest of Europe. So let's look into the successful expansion trails by our clients. We distinguish three trails. The trail number one is actually follow the money, and the money is the euro, and the euro will follow the biggest market. So many shops that start in Europe or expand within Europe, they go this way. They open a shop with one currency, and obviously they tackle first countries like Germany, France, Spain, Italy. Later on, when they have reached their first successes, they move on to Belgium, Netherlands, or smaller markets, Austria, and even smaller like Slovakia, Denmark, and so on. What needs to be avoided, obviously, is starting or expanding, for example, from Germany in Portugal, or starting in Portugal. Yes, it's a Euro market, but obviously, to move with an infrastructure, also with logistics back north, is a disaster and is very complicated. The second trail, which is very often used, and that is follow the culture. So one may say, all right, I want to invest in my store. My store needs to speak the language of the client. And that may be, for example, German. And if German is the language of the client, the store would start in Germany, may start in Austria, would then move to Germany, and may even start in Switzerland. Beware of customs, though, right? Or your store may be in France because it is speaking French, and then it moves to Belgium. It may move to Luxembourg, and so on. This is the second common trail that is done, and obviously number three is follow the map. Follow the map means you are already in a country, you have had your successes, and now you conquer neighboring countries. Even though they may have different languages or currencies, it's surely logistically easier to reach them, and that what is also done. So, from a nature, a Czech online business or an online business good in the Czech Republic will expand to Slovakia or to Poland before they would go to France, as an example, right? Of course, all these trails, they apply only if you are not in a home market outside of them. So if you are actually coming from an export market like Switzerland or Norway, you may not really be able to move so easily outside. And you should obviously, even from outside, not think, wow, those guys are plenty of money. Let's move to Switzerland first, because you will find a difficult issue with the border that obviously you will have to consult with your logistics guys, right? All right, Lydia, would you like to wrap this up for us?
Good. Now I know we have covered a lot of information here. So, what are some of the key takeaways from this second episode? To successfully enter or expand in Europe, you need to understand each region's needs. Adapt your strategy for each market or region and make sure you are offering the right payment method, shipping options, and customer service, and you attract the right crowd with your products. Now, before we close today's episode, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought. We spoke about the importance of understanding regional differences in Europe. But what about your products? Think about it for a second. What aspects of that might need to be adapted for different European markets? It could be anything from the language and tone of your marketing to the local services you offer, or even the packaging options you provide. It's all about putting yourself in the shoes of your European consumer and asking yourself, what would make this experience seamless and enjoyable for me? That's it for me for now. And final word from Rolando.
Right. We hope you found today's episode valuable. In that case, be sure to subscribe And don't forget to visit our website for the slides summarizing our tips how to expand into Europe or the continent successfully. Our next season 3 will have the title 10 Tips How to Drive Your E-commerce Business to the Ground. It's going to be a bummer. We hope to see you soon. And there remains, I want you to say, thanks for your attention and goodbye.
Beyond E-commerce Borders podcast.